You're listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast, episode 14.
Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Hi, Phil here, and welcome to episode 14 of the IT Career Energizer podcast, where I chat with inspiring IT professionals, consultants, and experts every week. To find out more about the podcast, visit itcareerenergizer.com. And now let's chat with today's featured guest, Andrew Bettany. Andrew is an experienced IT trainer specializing in Microsoft technologies and social media campaign strategy. Previously, Andrew grew the IT Academy at the University of York before deciding to focus on other opportunities such as consulting, authoring, and freelance training. So, Andrew, can I ask you to expand on that brief intro and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, Phil. Sure. So, I left school, joined the military, and then moved on to accounting after that. And within the accounting field, I felt like I was the accountant, but I was also the IT manager, and I was torn between the two. So I decided eventually that I wanted to get out of accountancy and move into IT. So we can talk about how I did that and how the career moved forward. Recently, literally a couple of years ago, I decided to leave the university where I'd become almost static in what I was doing. So I moved on to form my own training company, to author several books, and to do a lot more freelance training, both in person and also like we're doing now, using audio and video. And I think that's where I'm now pushing my energies into is how to engage more people than just the learners that I could reach whilst at the university.
Yes, it's interesting to see how the ability to communicate messages has improved dramatically over the last few years, and there are so many channels to share information. This being, as you say, one of them. Definitely,
yes.
Can you share with us a unique career tip that the IT Career Energizer audience need to know and probably don't?
Well, I think what worked for me was you need to get focused and aim for a goal. It's so easy today, and especially as you get older and older, to become more and more distracted. So especially the younger members who are listening to this podcast is pick a topic or pick a focus and stick at it. It might only be a 3-month focus, it might be a 6 month or a year, but achieve what you aim for. And I think really there'll be certain markers in your life where you can look back and say, I'm glad I did that. And that might be an apprenticeship, it might be a degree, it might be the first job. And you just need to tick it off and say, I did that, I give it my all, and I've got to the end of that program. I think it's too easy to be distracted. And certainly I feel distracted all of the time. I'm juggling so many balls at once. So whilst you're young and you haven't got the distractions of, let's say, family and children and dogs and mortgages and exciting things like that, they will come. But whilst you're still young, your biggest asset that you have is time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, you mentioned things like objectives in terms of what you might try to achieve. Do you see those as short-term or more longer-term in terms of defining your career path?
Well, both. You need to have a direction that you're heading in. It's and depends how old people are when they're listening to this. If they're at the beginning of their career, they need to decide where do they want to be. I in my life I've done several career changes, which I think in this day and age is quite common. We tend not to go into one career and stay there, like a bus driver, for example, or a doctor or a nurse for 20, 30, 40 years. Those jobs are still available, but in IT, because it's such a changing landscape, if you go into IT now, you might become something else in 10 years' time. So pick a short-term goal, see if you enjoy it. If you can pick it up and you can learn it and you can make friends and you can advance in that career, enjoy it while you can. Because there will be disruptions in our way of life going ever forward. We've only got to think about things like Netflix and Uber and think, they're complete disruptions in our world that nobody could have foreseen 20, 10, 15 years ago.
Very much so, yes. Can you tell us about your worst IT career moment and potentially what you learned from that experience?
It's always a tricky one. I think for me, looking back, I wish I had done what I've done now earlier. I left it until I was about 35 before I moved full time into IT. So before that, I was doing accountancy and IT and mixing. And so becoming focused on moving into IT, becoming a trainer has revolutionized my whole world. So whatever you choose, stick at it, achieve the goal, and then decide then is that what you want, and then move forward. So I think looking back I've got some old photographs when I had hair and when I was, in my 20s and 30s, and there's even a picture of my living room at the time, and it had maybe 5 or 6 PCs with a big cathode ray tube monitors and keyboards and a computer for every single workstation and server, and that was my learning environment, my lab. Nowadays, you can do that on a virtual machine, on a decent PC or a laptop, and do it in a virtual machine or even in the cloud. But for me, I got hooked into building the kit, but then not doing the certification. So my advice is, if you're going to do any piece of learning, see it through to the end. And if there's a certification, get the ticket. It's so important to tie something off and say, I've done that, next. Otherwise, you become, and I was like this. I wanted to be certified for 10 years, and it wasn't until something came up and it grabbed me and said, you either take this or you don't. And it was my late sister actually said to me, there's a course there that's going to take you through all the MCSE program over the first 6 months of the year. And I saw that, and I thought, wow, that's a life-changing opportunity. Am I ready to take that life-changing opportunity? And it meant leaving my full-time job.
Yeah.
And jumping in with 2 feet. So my advice is seize the opportunities and see things through. And seeing things through for me was being one of only 8 people in that class. Sorry, one of 2 people in that class who saw it through to the MCSE stage. We actually got qualified, after 6 months. And I had to give up my security blanket of my nice job, my salary, and step out. And I think that is so important as you get older, is to take those risks and just go for it. It makes you feel scared, but I think that's a good thing as well. And when people are scared about something, they put more energy and more focus into it. And the only other time that I still feel a little bit scared is when I take a certification, Phil. Is when you walk into that examination room, and
yes,
we all do it from school and things like that. And some people go through school and think, I don't want to see any more exams in my life. But if you're going to go into IT, it's a really good, useful way to prove that you know what you're doing. Before you start handling thousands and thousands of pounds worth of servers, multi-million pound infrastructures, you can reassure your potential employer or your boss that you are qualified to work on that, and that you know the difference between, not just an on and off switch, but the difference between DNS and DHCP. I'm talking about traditional IT, and having that learning and a badge of honour saying I qualified in that gives that reassurance, and it allows you, gets a foot in the door at least. That's how I believe it. And becoming a Microsoft certified trainer gave me a huge, big foot in a big open door, which then the world opened up for me.
Right. So where did you go after you did qualify? What was your next step?
Oh, well, exactly, because I'd left my job behind 6 months ago.
Right.
It took the 6 months of daily travel, 40 miles return, and that's where I really started thinking about. So, we're talking about technology and how it's moved on now, and we're listening to podcasts, which are fantastic, and I really, I've only got into them, I was saying before, literally a few months ago, whereas back in those days, 10, 15 years ago, when I started my career in IT, I was recording snippets from either TV programs about IT, or I was recording on a tape recorder and then playing that back for the 40-minute journey, the 40-mile journey. It was between York and Hull each day. So I was listening, I was trying to use my time, because I think that's the only thing we've really got that we can invest in ourselves is time to do stuff. So learning on the travel. So after 6 months after I'd qualified, And that was a highlight. Was I then got very much involved in the community of trainers and helping other people and understanding. And I don't know if you know the term of lurking within a forum, where you actually just stand back and listen and watch and don't comment. And I did that probably for 6 months. So that would be a bit of career advice I'd give to somebody: is find a community. It might be a user group that you go to in your local area that does IT or does development or does whatever field that you're looking at. Go to one of those community or networking opportunities. And if you're not comfortable, just sit back and be your own boss for a couple of weeks. What we did in the day was go to these forums and listen and watch and see who the players were, and you learnt so much. So what I did then was move cities. I actually moved to a different city, a larger city. That's where I thought would be better for me. And I set up a business, which I still run now, and started offering bespoke one-day training on things like Small Business Server and Server 2003 and NXP in the day. And I started to build a very small business, and it grew slowly. I didn't put a lot of... It was a full-time job, but I didn't put any marketing. It was a one-man band, in effect, just to cut my teeth and to find out what I wanted to do. And from there, from getting involved in the community, I started to go to the conferences. I started to volunteer more to help other people. And then I got noticed, and I became an MVP, which was a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in the Windows area. And that was because I was running a user group. I was giving back to the community. I was helping others learn. Because, and some people think, well, does that mean that other people can leapfrog you and get better? It's like, well, who cares? That's not the problem. The problem is you need to get people to come to listen and to talk and network, and we can all get better together. So it just went from one stage to another. I became an MCT, and then kept on learning, kept on qualifying, then became an MVP in 2012, which is this is my 5th year of being re-awarded that award. Yeah. So then you go to MVP conferences, and you go to Ignite. Before that used to be called TechEd. So one of the highlights that I had was actually presenting to 1,000 people in one of the big Microsoft conferences, where they involved 15,000 people to come to these big conferences. I think it was in Orlando or Houston. I've been to so many different conferences because of my Microsoft Certified Trainer badge that's got me into these places, and presented to 1,000 people, which was just an awesome experience, talking about something that you're comfortable with, that you're confident about, and having 1,000 people applaud at the end, you think, wow, that's pretty cool. Now, I know some people are professional presenters and they do this day in, day out, and they go to every conference there is. I don't, so therefore it felt extra special for me. Yes. And to be wined and dined, and to have the hotel being paid for you and things like that. It becomes special when you get opportunities like that.
Yeah, definitely. You've obviously moved on very much to career highlight, which is fantastic. Are there any specifics in terms of encouraging people and being able to help people improve their careers? Is there anything in that sort of area that you feel you're proud of, or as a career highlight?
So yes, you could say, well, look, what's the difference between me being a trainer and the other 1,000? There's about 10,000 trainers in the world. So the other 10,000 trainers, why aren't they all doing exactly the same thing as what I did? And why are they, living the dream that I'm living, which I'm enjoying my life at the moment. It's fun, it's fulfilled. I'm teaching people and I'm helping people get their career goals. So for example, tomorrow, I'll be travelling down towards London and doing a one-to-one teach with somebody who wants to learn the basics of networking. So I'll spend 2 days with him, and at the end of that, he'll then book an exam, and hopefully within 2 weeks, he'll be a certified professional. So to see it go from being a salesperson to sell that course, to engage with that person one-to-one, and to bring him on over a period of maybe 2 to 3 weeks with some homework and some hand-holding, and then some FaceTime where we actually get stuck in and we actually do stuff, and then leaving him with the encouragement to get an exam and pass it and have the confidence to pass it, is what I'm about. I'm about that. How do we introduce somebody? How do we encourage them? And how do we motivate them? And I think if you don't have those 3 components, then it's very easy to, as a learner, to switch off, or to be distracted, or to not finish the goal. And that's why I keep going back to that. Set yourself a target and achieve it. And that's remaining focused is such a difficult thing in this day and age.
Yeah, agreed. What one thing excites you about the future of a career in IT? I say one, but I'm quite happy for you to discuss more than one.
Well, IT is one of these really strange careers, and it's always changing. We've got situations where some things just won't change, and they will eventually die out, and that industry, so some technology will just die out and it won't be replaced. So, for example, small business server. We still come across people who are using that. It's a Microsoft product that did Exchange and SQL and Server and all these bundled things together, and that will fizzle out, and eventually nobody will be running that software. It'll be out of support, a bit like XP. And then we've got new software which will come in as that will come in the meantime. And then we've got this new emergence of the cloud, and whether or not that's AWS or Azure or some other provider, that is revolutionising the world again. And it only accounts for maybe 10% of IT spend at the moment, but you can see a shift by certainly the Microsoft boys saying, well, this is the next big thing, we want to be all in. And so always look out the window and say, well, what's new? Do I want to stay on the comfortable path of, well, I've got 5 more years in this job before something changes, like the company gets bought out or it changes tactic, or do I want to keep investing in myself and encouraging the business to move with the times and become more efficient, more productive, and embrace technology? And I think that's what I like about the IT world, is it's ever changing, and there's always opportunities. I think if whether it's we or IT, if we stand still, we start to stagnate, and we get comfortable. And I think that one of the worst things you can do in life is become overly comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So one of the things, back when I first started, I could have tried to do it as a part-time where I worked as an accountant, I did a bit of IT, and I kept that comfort blanket. But I had to physically make that decision of telling my boss, I need to do this and I need to do it full-time. And in effect, what I was doing then was using a scenario from Greek mythology where I burnt my boats on the beach. I was like, look, we're not going back.
Yeah.
We are going forward from here. We're not going to go back into accountancy. So it was quite, when I stopped my membership for the accountancy program, and I left that and I moved on and started with IT, that was now my focus. So, it's forever changing, and that keeps it exciting. It keeps it very hard as well. So we IT guys, we need to be realistic and think we need to keep sharpening that saw. I think that's a quote out of is it Dale Carnegie or something like that, where you've got to keep sharpening the saw or the sword or the blade to keep it sharp. Otherwise, you become a little bit blunt and dull, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. We're going to move on to the reveal round, which is a quick fire round of questions. So what first attracted you to a career in IT?
I've probably already answered that, but I think
partly.
Believe it or not, it was the money. And that's it. No, honestly, because I was in this stable job. I was working as an accountant, a financial controller with IT management duties as well.
Yeah.
And I was getting a fixed payroll every month, and it was boring. I got not bored, but I got, well, where's the opportunity? How can I make more money to enjoy life? At that point, I'd not travelled much.
Yeah.
And I wanted the extra money. So I thought, IT, right? I've heard these fantastic stories, and unfortunately, the road wasn't paved with gold once I became qualified. It was because I'm qualified, but I'm still unknown. I'm still, at the bottom end of the scale. But slowly but surely, it started to open up. And IT had changed. We'd gone through the big hoo-ha of the MCSE 2003 and the whole issue about paper certs, and all of a sudden the IT world sort of collapsed a little bit and re-established itself. So it was a bit of a shock, but I pulled myself together, pulled myself through, started doing obviously my own business and built it up, and then eventually I got the contract with the University of York to help them run their IT academy, which then was a part-time stable job. So I had two and a half days a week with them, 2.5 days a week doing my own consultancy and training. So I had best of both worlds. I thought I was getting a regular paycheck from a mortgage, and I had, but in hindsight, looking back, I spent too long in that comfort zone of the academy. And so again, I've learnt a life lesson as well, which is now, this is my second year of being freelance and being completely untethered, where I'm making the money now. I'm making what I want to do. It's how much do I work? Do I work evenings? Do I work mornings? Do I do 3 jobs in one? Or and it's all of a sudden it's exciting again.
Okay. What is the best career advice you've ever received?
I think lurk and learn, which is what I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And decide what you're going to do, and then just go for it. Don't dilly-dally. I wasted probably a good 5 years of looking at these servers in my front lounge, in my front room, and thinking, I want to be an IT guy. And I never did it. I just looked at it and I thought I was doing the IT thing, but I never got beyond chapter 1, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
I never fulfilled the complete, I was learning bits. And it wasn't until an opportunity came up that made me. I became a made man at that point. I became an MCT. And since I've become an MCT or a Microsoft trainer, I've travelled to Africa, I've travelled to America dozens of times. I've been to 10 different countries in Europe, all to do my tradecraft. I even went to Haiti just after the earthquake and taught people out there after that terrible earthquake in 2010. So there's been opportunities that I've loved, and they're part of my life now, and they've all come from taking that big step, that leap of faith that I'm doing the right thing. And if I'm not doing the right thing, at least I'm going to take it. Because if you meander, or if you're hesitant, and then before you know it, Phil, a year will go by, and then another year, and it's like, oh, I wish, and then it passes you by. Then you're the oldest guy in the class, and you don't want to be the oldest guy in the class.
No, not at all. No. If you were to begin your IT career again right now, what would you do?
Take an exam as soon as I can. So yeah, I would get qualified, because that puts a marker in the sand. It says, right, I've got something, I've got a firm base. I would remove as many distractions as I could. So one of the things I tell students now when I talk to them, I say, look, remove as many distractions. So please go home after class and, hopefully they've done this already. Go home after class and set aside 2 hours in the evening where you can go through the notes, you can go through the book, you can go through any practice that you need to do, but talk to your loved one and say, look, can I have this? I need these 2 hours. Don't go to the pub, don't watch football. Set aside the time that you deserve to finish the job each night or each week, or and carve that time out. Because one of the hardest things, I went for a long time of learning in a 5-day ritual, where you taught for 5 days and the learners learn for 5 days. And that equated to something like 40 hours a week of learning. And when you put that back into perspective and say, when would the average learner, if they didn't come on that type of course, find 40 hours of proper instructor-led, it was in the time, quality instruction. And it's really, really hard when you're doing this off your own bat, to motivate yourself and keep yourself going when you've got all the distractions of the world. And you've got your friends pinging you on the mobile and, and saying come to the pub and all the rest of it, is to say, how do I focus on this? So work out what works for you. Tell as many people that you're doing this, that you want this qualification, or you're going to. It's like when you do your driving test. You want people for your car or your bike. You're doing a driving test. You want as many people being your cheerleader as possible. So
Yeah.
They start asking you questions about your theory test. Get them to do it with the IT as well. Use the time you've got. Set a date and take the exam. And if you fail, at least you know how far you've still got to reach for. You know that didn't work, and you normally get a score report at the end. You know where you failed, so you can focus on those areas.
What career objectives are you focusing on right now?
I'm focusing on building the IT Masterclasses brand.
Okay.
And also looking at how to build. I'm also looking at how to build renewable income. I think that's an important thing to try and. How do you get that recurring income, either from a bunch of customers or from people who read my books, or people who look at the videos, or that sort of thing. So itmasterclasses.com, and also renewable income.
What's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career to date?
Sell yourself, Phil. I think you've got to sell yourself. You are the commodity. When people want to interview you, or people want to offer you a job, or in my case, what I'm doing is I'm selling training services or consulting services. They're buying it off me. And I think if you're shy or you don't like to express yourself, then don't put yourself in a sales role. If you're really uber technical, focus on technical. Focus on what you're good at, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying. For me, sales is that's why I wanted to get out of accountancy. I wanted to be able to sell more. I wanted to do a sales job, in effect, of IT. There's some basics out there as well, things like look smart, be on time, and always smile. They're given. Everyone can do that. But I think you need to sell yourself. So whatever your USP or your unique selling point is, whether it's your technical skills, your confidence, your smile, your outgoing nature, whatever it is, sell it. That's what people are buying from you. And my whole talk tonight is all about how do you make yourself more sellable. And in the technical IT realm, that's getting certified and finishing jobs that you start.
Yes. Can you share a parting piece of career advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
Tick off short-term goals. Focus. Become really, really committed in what you're going to do. And I think use the time that you've got. So if you're not studying, you're not learning, then listen to podcasts. And I've got a couple of podcasts that I've been listening to in the last few months, which, I take a little bit of information from them each time. So there's people like Kevin Rose, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, and a chap called Vanacek. And these are all entrepreneurs or people who have made lots of money and they're now giving back to the community. And I think you can pick up snippets of golden nuggets of information and wisdom from these guys and think, wow, wish I'd done that 10 years ago. So fill your day with learning opportunities and then use the weekends for fun.
Yes. Okay. And finally, can you tell us the best way that we can find out more about you and connect with you?
Sure. Well, go to itmasterclasses.com. Reach out to me on there. I'm on Twitter as well using Andrew_Bettany. And reach out to me. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. If anyone out there hasn't got a LinkedIn profile, build one.
Yes, definitely.
It's like an online CV or resume. It will build over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And, share that with as many people as you meet, because people will, if they want to contact you, they will always go to LinkedIn first. I think that's becoming, and that's one of the reasons why Microsoft spent $20 billion on it last year to buy LinkedIn. They finally realized that was a big opportunity that they didn't want somebody else to have. So LinkedIn has got a big place in IT and career building for in this day and age, I think.
Andrew, thanks so much for joining me on the IT Career Energizer podcast today. It's been great talking with you.
My pleasure, Phil. Thank you.
But I really hope you enjoyed this week's chat with Andrew Bettany. Full show notes can be found on the website at itcareerenergizer.com/e14. And while you're at the website, you can also download my 11 top career tips for IT professionals, which you can access through the homepage. In next week's episode, I'll be talking with Kevlin Henney, who is presenter, consultant and regular keynote speaker on software development, as well as editor of the book 97 Things Every Programmer Should Know. If you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher to get future episodes automatically downloaded to your device. And if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate you leaving a rating and review about the show. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.